To this day, I'm like the least athletic athlete ever. Like I can't catch a ball. All I ever did was gymnastics.
So you have incredible, astounding body control. You can tumble. No jump shot.
No ball. My thing is no ball sports.
Welcome to the Coach 'Em Up podcast. I'm Tim Riley. Zach Zillner is not with me today, but that's okay. I've got a really badass guest. Before I introduce her, just a couple of house cleaning things. Number one, there are two types of people in this world. There are subscribers and there are non-subscribers. If you are a non-subscriber, please do the right thing. Hit like, subscribe, leave us an awesome review. It really helps us on the show. And then we get to continue doing this thing and it's really awesome. So thank you. The next thing is by the time you're listening to this, we'll have been sold out of the Coach 'Em Up conference for about a month. So thank you to everyone listening, watching, who purchased a ticket, told a friend. We're very grateful and incredibly humbled at the response. We sold the conference out in less than a month, which is just absolutely fucking bananas. So thank you. Now that that's out of the way, I'd like to introduce our guest, Rebecca Rouse. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm great. Never better. How are you?
I'm doing really good, man. It is kind of fucking hot in here though, isn't it?
I run cold, so
so it's perfect for you.
If I'm comfortable, it's probably hot.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I'll keep my complaints to myself then. Thank you for being willing to come on the show and hang out with me for 90 minutes, a total stranger. It's very kind of you.
I love it. I'm here for it. We've been talking about it for a while, so.
Yes, that's right. How long? So maybe listeners are aware of it now, but like the way that we reach out to guests here is I just slide in people's DMs. That is just what I do.
You owned it.
I did. Thank you.
It was great. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Why, in addition to coming on the podcast, why else are you in Austin?
I am in Austin Wednesday until Sunday for the Texas Tactical Police Officers Association annual conference.
Nice.
That's a mouthful.
Wow, you nailed it though. You didn't even fuck up a little bit.
So I'll be here all weekend presenting at this conference, which brings over 800 law enforcement officers from the entire state of Texas to Austin for the annual conference where they get to shoot, they get to learn, connect. So it'll be a really cool opportunity for me to continue developing as a speaker presenter for my target population, which is the tactical population, in this case specifically law enforcement, and then a great networking opportunity and a chance to get out of my house. So it's a trifecta.
Nice,
I'm excited.
Excellent. Yeah, hell yeah. Well, I'm glad we're able to play a small part in your Austin experience.
Thank you.
Okay, so I know who you are. We've been communicating back and forth now for a while, me trying to get you onto the show. I did a proper social media stalk to try and find out as much as I possibly could about you. So I know who you are and what you're about. But maybe not all of our listeners do. So for the people who don't, can you tell us a little about yourself, how you got into training, how you got into coaching, and how you ended up here with me?
That is a lot of things.
It is.
Where should I start?
Well, you know what? I want to give you the freedom here. You don't have to go into complete detail. We don't have to talk about the first time the trauma happened. Do you know what I mean? Literally just high level when you got into training, what your experience was like, and your coaching experience, and then we're gonna pick it apart. All
right, sounds good. So I got into training right after college graduation. I graduated with a double degree in Spanish and public health, and I did nothing with them. Although I do speak Spanish still, so that helped. Public health, I didn't go down that route at all. I got into personal training because I met my now husband in college, and he's active duty military. And so ever since we graduated in 2013, we've been moving every 2 to 3 years. And right after school, right after we graduated college in Maryland, we got stationed in California. He got stationed in a place called 29 Palms, and if any of your listeners know about 29 Palms, there is absolutely nothing there except for the military base. It's a giant desert.
Okay.
So my family's from California, and so when we moved back there for him to go to training for a year, we knew at that time it was only going to be 1 year duty station. It was for a training school. And so I was like, I'm not going with you to 29 Palms. There's nothing there for a recent college graduate. I'm going to move back in with my parents. They were in LA. There was a little bit more opportunity there. So I moved back in with my parents for 1 year while he went to training. We saw each other on the weekends, and I was looking for jobs in the LA area, and I saw an opening for Equinox. which I'm sure you're familiar with Equinox. For those of you who are not, it is a high-end kind of luxury fitness facility.
Didn't Equinox start there on the West Coast?
No, they're from New York.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they started in New York City.
Okay.
There's quite a few clubs now. Obviously, there's tons in New York City, but lots of them in California, the big cities primarily. LA had a bunch. And there were two within 25, 30 minutes of where my parents were living, where I was living at the time. And I applied and I got the job. And so for me, at that time, I thought it was going to be, a temporary 1-year gig while I waited for my husband to finish there and figure out where we were going to go next.
Yeah.
And I absolutely fell in love with training. I had already loved fitness because I was a gymnast for 12 years. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I was always active. And so I had my own athletic journey up to that point. And then it was just a matter of taking that passion and kind of reconfiguring it and helping other people on their fitness journey. So that's where I got my start. And I did that. I did a year and a half of just training. Then I got into the manager and training program. And then I became a fitness manager and then personal training manager.
Oh my God, we have such similar stories.
Really?
Yes, dude. Yes.
So yeah.
Very relatable.
Then I would continue to work there for 6.5 years up until COVID. But doing always training, they require, which I really liked and respected, that they required their managers to at least maintain a small amount of clientele. We had a cap, we couldn't train full-time and manage full-time. We were full-time managers, but we still were required to do about 10 sessions a week, so we could still keep up that craft of training because we're managing trainers who are also training clients.
100%.
So I thought that was great. It was a phenomenal place to start my career. I learned a ton. And then when COVID hit and I was in California at the time, we were the last place to reopen anything. So lost my job, got furloughed, and then started my business.
Wow. I'm biased because my experience is much like yours where, I still work with Gym Pop, but to a lesser extent, mostly athletes now. But when I first started training, it was entirely in the box gym setting. And I was also a personal training manager, hiring and developing and having the meetings and all the stuff.
Sales training.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah, baby. But I got to say, I'm so grateful for that experience because I got so many reps at training, and every single person who walks in the door presents something different, and you have to develop, frankly, people skills.
Oh, yeah.
I guess you don't have to, but
to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. And there's other little components of just managing your own business and being an effective communicator and, selling your services and being able to manage personalities and working in an environment where everybody thinks they're smart.
Yep.
And also too, I don't know, man, I do believe if you can teach an 80-year-old who's never touched a weight how to hinge properly, I think you could probably build a rocket ship.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, seriously. You mentioned your gymnastics career. And did you do gymnastics all the way through college?
No, I stopped actually going into high school.
Okay.
So I did it from age 3 to about 15.
3 to 15. And you were competitive, I'm assuming, then, yeah?
Yeah, I started competing at age 7.
Whoa. Man.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It really provided, it was the foundation and the structure for my entire childhood, really.
Yeah.
I started when I was 3. I wasn't competitive. I was kinder gym and the little flippers
Sure.
and whatever. So
I started my daughter at 3.
Amazing.
She still goes, yeah.
I love it. It's such a good sport for kids for so many reasons. And I didn't appreciate until I was older how much it did for me.
Yeah.
As an adult, even translated straight from childhood into adulthood in both positive and negative ways. But the negative, you could also spin as in a positive way, if you know what I mean. So it was my whole childhood, but it created that structure. So it was, I didn't have a normal childhood like most kids. I went to school. I was PE exempt because I was a competitive athlete, and so I didn't have the PE classes.
Oh.
Instead, I got that hour back to go to gymnastics. There's a whole thing we could do. I don't know if that was just a California thing or if I have no clue.
Damn, shout out California. That is awesome.
Yeah, so I didn't have a PE period. I got off school an hour early to
so
go
you could go to gymnastics.
And
Son of a bitch, that is awesome.
Yeah, so I had 3.5 hours of gymnastics practice 4 days a week, and then competitions on the weekends. And then after practice, I'd get home, eat dinner, do homework, go to sleep, and repeat. So that was... You can kind of see how that would lead into having a hyper-focused, hyper-structured just existence as an adult.
For sure.
My calendar is color-coded, time-blocked.
Oh my God. I wish I had 20% of your superpower. I'm so the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've had to acquire the skills of,
Yeah.
you know, being much more organized, and obviously, like, as my responsibilities have grown. But holy shit, am I ADHD? And I'm not just like saying that, like, legitimately. And yeah, I haven't had a color coded anything in my entire life. So we operate on two different wavelengths in that regard.
That's cool because everyone, you know, we still ended up.
You figure it out.
Our path, we figure out how to be successful in a way that works for you, and honoring your individualities and the way you thrive. Right?
Yes,
we all have those things specific to us. But yeah, I didn't appreciate until I was an adult how much it did affect the rest of my life, and up until this point, you know, I how much discipline I derived from that period of my life, and that structure, that focus, that. Yeah, but the other kind of the downside is the perfectionism, because gymnastics is a sport where you have, for women, 4 events: vault, bars, balance beam, and floor, and you have your routine. And at a gymnastics meet, you start at a perfect score, and then anything you do wrong, you get a deduction. Your toes aren't pointed, your knees not straight, you don't stick your landing. Anything that goes wrong is a deduction, and so you're always striving for that perfection because that's the goal, right? Very rarely do people actually get a perfect 10, but that's always the goal. And so I realize now as an adult how much that perfectionism has bled into who I am, and I've had to learn how to work with it, but also not obsess over it.
100%.
Because it's who I am really at my core. I don't know that I'll ever change that, but how can I still be successful and not hate myself when I'm not perfect?
100%.
And learn that that's actually an opportunity for growth.
Well, what a brutal scoring system. You know, you start perfect, and then we're going to pick you apart, quite literally.
By judges who are sitting there watching you, taking notes. I mean, it's all happening right in front of your eyes.
That is intense. It really is. And I can relate to the perfectionism thing. Like, I think, you know, in speaking with people who reach out to me and Zach about like wanting to start a project or something like that. Like I feel like one of the biggest barriers to entry for people is they feel like it's not going to be good enough, so they just never start. Sure. And certainly that's been an experience of mine, you know. Or I do something and I'm just not. Instead of completing a task and being like, oh, look at this really cool thing I did, I just feel relief, you know, as opposed to like being like really proud of what I've done or like what I've accomplished. I'm just like, yeah, that's the way it should have gone, you know? Or it's like, well, I could have done this better.
Totally.
Yeah, I think, but here's the interesting thing about that too. And I don't know if you feel this way or not, let me know, but it's not a problem until it's a problem. Because in a lot of ways, like I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater in that, because in a lot of ways, like it served me really well, you know? It's a double-edged sword.
100%. Yeah,
it's a double-edged sword.
I feel the same way.
So, okay, gymnastics career ends. And was there like a reason, or it just kind of stopped? What's the story there?
So high school is a big pivotal moment for a lot of young gymnasts, because at that point in time, you kind of know, are you going to go the route of trying to become an elite athlete and go to the Olympics, or do you want to have a normal life? And if you're going to try to go to the Olympics, there is no normal life to speak of. A lot of aspiring, because for gymnastics, we peak. If you become that high of level of an athlete, you peak very early. I mean, Simone Biles is like a complete anomaly. She's in her mid to late 20s. Most gymnasts are done and hit their peak performance in their like late teens, early 20s. Wow. And so going into high school when we're 15, you know, we're at that precipice of like, where am I going? And I was also very focused on academics. And so that whole perfectionist also bled into school. So I was a straight A student. And at that point I was like, I didn't think I was good enough. I was also one of the tallest at 5 foot at that time, probably 5'2", one of the tallest ones on my team. And it's definitely a sport for smaller people.
If you had to give an archetype for like the ideal height and size, just to give listeners an understanding of...
Shorter the better.
Really?
Yeah. Most gymnasts are quite short. And so I was like tall for...
5'2", you were too tall.
Yeah, I'm 5'4" now, but at the time I was probably shorter. And not that I was too tall, there are still tall gymnasts, but it's a disadvantage. So anyway, so I was very focused on academics, and at that point I kind of knew I wasn't going to probably not be collegiate, definitely not going to the Olympics. So I decided to stop the sport altogether and focus on academics. going into high school and take AP classes, try to get college credit, go to good school, etc.
Okay.
So that was the route I took.
Did anything immediately take the place of that from a physical activity standpoint?
I became a cheerleader.
You did?
Which is hilarious because you would never look at me and expect that I'd be a cheerleader. But I did it mainly so I didn't have to do regular PE, because and to this day, I'm like the least athletic athlete ever. Like, I can't catch a ball. All I ever did was gymnastics. I've really
So you have incredible, astounding body control. You can tumble like a motherfucker.
Yep, but I can't
No
throw,
jump shot.
No ball. My thing is no ball sports. No ball sports. So I did not want to take regular PE because I had no idea how to play any other sport.
I see.
So I was like, what can I do? There's no gymnastics team. I did cheerleading. So I could still do the tumbling and some of the acrobatic type stuff. But the whole like cheering part of cheerleading was really not for me. My mom would be like, you don't smile, you look miserable. Like, because I kind of am.
Kind of am, yeah.
But I did it for 2 years, got that out of the way, and then it was really like my junior, senior year of high school when I found the gym, the weight room.
Nice.
Gym. So
what was that like? Like, was there a moment where you went with a friend or something like that and you're like, oh shit, I like this?
I went with my parents. They were actually members of Equinox at the time. So that
what a full circle
right?
situation. Yeah.
So I think they let me join my senior year, if I recall correctly. So I became a member, but I didn't know how to lift weights because gymnastics is an all body weight sport. So I had good body awareness and I was strong, but I didn't know how to lift other things. Mm-hmm. So I think I got to know some of the trainers at the gym where I went, and they kind of showed me a few things, and I knew enough to be dangerous. And then I started to play around with some stuff and do pull-ups and do more like bodybuilding muscle group splits. That's kind of what everyone does when they first start, I think.
100%.
And then
that was my experience. Yeah.
And I got the itch. And then in college, so that was 2009, I graduated high school. And then I went to college and
shout out class of 09.
Are you also?
Yes.
Hell yeah. So yeah, college, I started lifting weights in the weight room. And I think at that time, very few women were lifting weights. There were maybe I could count on one hand how many other women I'd see in the weight room, which I'm glad to see has changed since. But I continued lifting weights, more bodybuilding focused all through college. Did a figure competition.
You did?
Yep. Did one figure competition.
What was your experience like with that? Because I think anyone who's spent a long time coaching and training and stuff, the longer you're in and around gym culture, it usually crosses most people's mind at some point.
For sure.
Like, maybe, I could.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What was your experience like?
It was interesting. It's something I'm glad I did once, and I'd like to not do again. I think in any kind of, for anyone on a fitness journey, having a goal, having something to train for is always a good thing. I started to be at odds with it when I started to also realize that health was something I was really passionate about, health and fitness, and the things that make someone healthy and fit and the things I was doing to train for this and prepare for this figure competition were incongruent. Yeah. And the only time in my entire history as an athlete that I lost my menstrual cycle was then. And even at,
cutting for the show.
Like even now I think I'm probably leaner naturally, but I'm eating a lot more now than I was then. I was cutting, I was dieting, like I didn't really have that much body fat to lose, but I lost what I had. And so I lost my cycle. I had a bad relationship with food. I had a bad relationship with my body image. And so it just,
I'm sure that perfectionism wasn't in the picture at all during this time.
No, not at all. So yeah, I mean, I went through it. I did what I set out to do. And it was right after college that I got into functional training and strength. And then I was like, that's it for me. And I've never left that path. So
where did you find weightlifting?
That came later, actually. I was 27 when I started Olympic weightlifting.
Okay. So were you still working as a training manager at Equinox at that time?
Mm-hmm. Okay. But I was, so in that whole process, my husband and I moved a bunch of times. Okay. So we went from, when he finished in 29 Palms, we went to San Diego. And that we were there for 3 years. Then he got stationed in New Jersey. So we went to the East Coast. And at that point in time, I was working at Equinox in New York City. And that's when I got my first weightlifting coach, started weightlifting, and that's how that all started. So that was 2018.
Wow. So 2018, really? Yep. It hasn't been that long, actually. That's pretty incredible. You know that?
Thanks.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
But at the same time, it's like I started the sport of weightlifting in 2018. But I had been strength training so long prior to that. And I think that had its advantages.
Sure. For sure. Yeah. You had a base of hypertrophy and strength prior to going into it. Yep. I'm also certain, your inherent body awareness,
Yes.
I would assume it made a huge impact. Shout out gymnastics showing back up again.
Yeah. Mobility, body awareness, proprioception, all that stuff is so necessary to be good at weightlifting. And I think that's why a lot of former gymnasts go into weightlifting or CrossFit or both, because it just lends itself so well to those sports.
So tell me, you start weightlifting and now like you're an accomplished weightlifter. So what has this journey been like? Tell me about, from point A to like where you are today. What have been some of the milestones and what are some of the things you've learned along the way?
Early on, I learned that the technicalities of the sport, because you could be strong. There's a lot of strong people, people who can deadlift a ton of weight, squat a ton of weight, but that there's the missing element of the technique aspect of weightlifting, that you could be stronger than an ox, but if you can't move well and move quickly, you're not gonna be good at weightlifting. So early on, because I was already strong, my strength was up here, my technique was down here. And so I had to spend that first like year or two was just learning the technique, and eventually the technique catches up to the strength. And then you're kind of playing, yo-yo between the two, like which is better, which one's lagging. So
I'm smiling because I just like the perfectionist. I just know you being able to dial in to the minutiae of that. Does that sort of like scratch that?
Yeah, it's probably.
Itch, probably.
I'm sure but the difference between weightlifting and gymnastics, well, there's a lot of differences, obviously, but like from a scoring standpoint, it's very, very objective. You either lift the weight or you can't. There's a couple different technique benchmarks that have to be hit. Like you have to be locked out when you catch your snatch and your jerk.
Right.
But besides that, like,
does eliminating that gray give you a sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Does it ease some anxiety for you, knowing that it's kind of black and white? No, it doesn't at all.
Well, the black and white, I guess, yeah. But like the amount of the anxiety is still there. The performance anxiety, that's just something I'll always have. Yeah. But back to your original question, the benchmarks along the way. So I did my first competition, first weightlifting meet was in 2019, and I actually won. But I don't remember how many people I was competing against. But I don't know. Like I didn't really appreciate, I think back then, like the foundation of strength that I had already built. I was so new at the sport, I did not expect to win. And I didn't think I was that good or that strong, but the playing field was smaller. It was a local meet. So I ended up walking away with a gold medal, but knowing I had so much to learn and so much room to grow still. And then shortly after that, I ended up moving back to San Diego. And then I got a different weightlifting coach, did my second competition. I think I did my total was pretty close to what my first competition was. Then COVID hit, so then I didn't really do weightlifting consistently for about a year. Then I moved to Texas in 2021, and that's when things really picked up. The coach I'm working with now, I've been working with since I moved to Texas a little under 4 years ago.
Who's your coach?
His name's Richard Fleming. Okay. He has coached Olympians, Chad Vaughn. I don't know if you know the name Chad Vaughn. Don't. He was 2008.
Richard Fleming sounds so familiar.
He's almost 80 years old, so he's been around for a long time. But he's kind of like, if you did weightlifting in Dallas at any point in time between 1970 and now, you know who Richard Fleming is. Okay. So he's kind of like the Godfather. He's very old school. But all the three coaches that I've had were exactly who I needed when I had them. Yeah. And when I worked with them. So he was, for the point where I was in my weightlifting career at that point in time, where I was in my life, I had just become an entrepreneur. I was like very, very focused. And I didn't really know it at the time, but like I was ready to take that next step into like higher level performance athletics. And he's a large reason that I was able to do that. I added 47 kilos to my total in a year.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
So
that's really impressive.
Thanks. I think 156. My first meet with him was like a month after I moved to Texas. And I was just like jumped in just to see how I did. Yeah. I think I totaled 156. And then a year later, I totaled 200. Yeah. So that was, and some of it was just like I was more focused, more dialed. Sure. It became a higher priority in my life because I was able to make it that. But part of it was his coaching, and just he was like he is a no BS guy. I was used to every single set I would do, I'd look to my coach for feedback, approval, something. Right. And he's like not that guy. So he says only what needs to be said. So I'm used to just he'll tell me what he needs to say. If there's nothing to say, he won't say anything. And it's just, we train in mostly silence. There's no music. He's also part, deaf. He's a little older.
He's very old. Yeah.
It's hard of hearing, but like there's no music. There's not a lot of conversation. It's just a couple of us in a 2-car garage getting after it, and
fuck yeah.
Super old school.
The art of knowing what not to say is a really special tool, and in my opinion, in any coach's tool bag. And I think early on, I'll speak for myself. I wanted to provide as much context as possible, and it was important to me. I felt like it was very important to make sure that every single detail was explained about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we can improve at every opportunity. And the older I've gotten and the more experience I've learned, at least for myself, that that's actually almost always not the best way to approach it.
Yeah, I've had to learn that too.
And even outside of coaching, in life in general, my experience has been is that people, when they arrive at conclusions under their own cognitions, whether they really did or it's perceived, it sticks.
Yeah.
And it's so much more profound. And I've found that when I remove myself from the equation a little bit in that regard, it's also pretty humbling because you start to understand it's like, oh, like I'm a part of this fitness journey with this person, whatever their goal is. You're more of like a Sherpa or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you're not, these people oftentimes are taking themselves through this journey. You're just there, with them.
Yeah.
But before him, you were used to being able to look over and get feedback, and it was like, nope, you were too far back on your heels, or whatever the case was. Was there an adjustment period for you? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Just his coaching style is so different than anything I had coaches.
So would you do a rep and he just wouldn't say anything? You'd just be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I thought I was like totally, I did like a horrible job. But then I started to learn that he just only said what needed to be said.
Yeah.
And that was actually a big lesson for me being both a coach and an athlete. Like I realized that I was kind of a chronic over-cuer. Mm-hmm. And sometimes less is more.
Yes.
Because we can't think about 27 things at the same time anyway. Like let's think about one thing, if that. And let's give it a chance to marinate and make mistakes. And then did that work? No? Yes? Okay, let's course correct if we need to and then go from there.
Yeah. So it's okay to experiment.
Yeah.
The Coach 'em Up podcast has partnered with Eleiko.
Let's go.
Not only is Eleiko found in 85% of Power 5 schools, but they also offer at-home solutions from racks, flooring, rigs, barbells, bumper plates, your favorite accessories like straps and weightlifting belts, you name it, Eleiko's got you covered. Go to eleiko.com/coachemup and get access to the same equipment that they're using in the best facilities with the best athletes on the planet. Okay, so as your career has progressed, what's your most recent total, and tell us some of the milestones you've made along the way?
Yeah, we kind of got off track, but so when I started working with him in 2021, I qualified, it was my October, I think my second or third meet with him, I qualified for nationals, first time. So I qualified for nationals in 2022.
You said the first time you qualified.
That was the first time.
Just wanted to clock that for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Keep going.
Well, I've qualified. I mean, I've only gotten better, but it was interesting. I would hope, right?
Right.
I haven't reached my peak yet. I know it's coming close, but we're not there yet. I'll be 34 on Sunday. So that first year, I added 40 whatever kilos to my total. And then since that, so that was 2021, and we're now in 2025, my best total is 208. So I've added 8 kilos in 4 years. Just to give perspective of like,
it's so hard.
Progress is not linear. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard pill to swallow for people who are athletes. And in a sport like this, where progress is measured in kilograms on the barbell, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had to get used to that and learn to appreciate the journey more than the destination, which sounds so cliche, but it's true. And so it's not just about how much weight on the bar, how much weight am I lifting, but also like you learn to have other types of PRs, like mindset PRs or technique PRs. Mm-hmm. And so I think just finding other ways to measure progress, it's not just kilograms, because if you focus only on that, you're going to be in for a rough go at a certain point, right? Because beginner gains are a real thing.
Totally a real thing.
You do this long enough, and
yes,
those gains are smaller and smaller.
Yes, yeah. The law of diminishing returns is a real bitch.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we were fortunate enough to hang out with Dylan Dozier.
Yeah. Oh,
and
I saw this clip about not having like fake PRs.
Yes.
I totally saw that clip.
Yeah.
And
It's
I love it.
It was a shoeless PR. He was like, no, the fuck it's not.
I love that guy.
Yeah. Dylan is a shout out Dylan. He is just so awesome.
Yeah, he is.
But he talked about that, about, you know, his first several years, like he kind of had this tremendous surge in weightlifting and went from like kind of being a newbie to like being at the national level, and then this long arduous process just to add like 6 or 10 kilos. I forget what it was. And I don't think people, unless you've taken something to the limit that can be objectively measured, you don't understand what it's like to scratch and claw and the ups and downs associated with what it takes, and just the mental beat down associated with the process it takes to just improve what is considered marginal. But when you're at that high of a level, it's not marginal, right? Like 3 kilos is a fuck ton at that point.
Yes.
How have you managed to stay healthy? Because when I see the sport of weightlifting, like your sport is lifting.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
And I would assume the volume and the consistency that goes into that just to even maintain strength and technical proficiency is a lot.
Yep.
I just watch that and I think to myself, I would be injured in the first month. I would just be in shambles. So how have you been able to maintain
I love this question.
consistency and stay healthy? Because it's impressive.
Thank you. And I have one word that will sum it all up. Can you guess?
Sleep.
Sleep.
Fuck yes.
Yep. You probably stalked my Instagram and figured that out. Maybe. But that is truly the way. And it is something I didn't realize or appreciate or implement until fairly recently. But doing so has made an immense difference in my life. And it was a conscious choice that I made in November of 2023. I've been using Whoop for about 3 years now. And from the time I started to like even have sleep on my radar at all until then, I was probably averaging about 7 hours.
That's what I'm at right now.
Yeah, and that's not bad. I mean, like adults is 7 to 9 is what's recommended. So it's on the low end, but I was averaging 7 hours. And I was probably getting sick, you know, a cold a couple times a year. I have some nagging aches and pains that I would ignore. Nothing that would impede my ability to train, but like they were there. And then I had a rotator cuff tear that happened in January of 2023 at the state meet. And then I recovered from that. Took about 5-6 months for a full recovery. And then
Did you have surgery? No.
It was not a full tear, it was a partial tear.
Okay. What was it? What was it? Subscap or?
I didn't actually have an MRI.
Okay.
They just did they were like, you can have an MRI. All that's going to tell us is exactly where it is.
Yeah.
And, like the severity of it, but it's definitely not fully torn. So
right.
The rehab isn't really not going to change.
Okay.
So I was like, forget the MRI.
Yeah.
But I've made a full recovery. Anyway, so November 2023, I started to learn more and more about sleep. It was kind of becoming more of that at the forefront of the conversation in the wellness space. That's way more at the forefront even now, a year and a half later. But in November 23, I decided to make a conscious choice to make sleep a higher priority in my life and like kind of restructure some things to make sure that I got more sleep. And then I kind of went down this whole rabbit hole of now I got the blue light blocking glasses and now I have like my hour-long evening routine. Everyone talks about their morning routine. I was like, no, forget the morning routine. Show me your evening routine and we can make some changes there. Like that's what's good because that sets the tone for your sleep, which sets the tone for your next day. So I started to focus more on how I end the day and getting better quality sleep. So adding sauna into my routine and dimming the lights, getting work, stimulation, social media out of the bedroom, out of the picture for the last hour before bed, made a lot of and this didn't happen overnight, I should clarify. These are gradual changes that I've implemented over time. And now, since then, my average sleep is 7.5 to 8.5 hours.
Wow.
And most nights I'm getting 8 to 8.5.
Can you just, I want to go along this journey with you, this wind down process.
Yeah.
So At what time typically does this process start for you? And then take us through it, man. Like, what are the steps you take? Because obviously it's made a profound impact on you.
Yes. Let me just wrap that thread up.
Okay.
And then I will tell you everything. So, but I think it's important because I don't think people truly realize how impactful sleep can be. But since I did that, since November 2023, when I started to make a conscious choice to move my average from 7 to 7.5 up to 8 to 8.5, I have not had a cold. I have not had any injuries. And I've been lifting heavier and heavier. I travel more. I travel way more than I did last year and definitely the year before. And I haven't gotten sick or injured. And I wake up pain-free 90% of the time. Considering the amount of training I do, that's
pretty incredible.
And I attribute it.
I'm always more or less in pain or sick at this point, especially with my daughter. So this is very intriguing for me right now.
And I will tell anybody who will listen, because I don't think people realize like how low their baseline is when it comes to like how they feel. Like, you don't have to feel this way. And most people that wake up feeling pain, because I'm on a team, I play a team sport and I play in the grid league. And so I have a team of 18 other people that I play this sport with, and they're all wrapping every joint, taking ibuprofen before every practice, and they all sleep like 6 hours a night. Yeah. Or the ones that are doing that sleep 6.5 hours a night or less. And I'm like, you're doing it to yourself. And I get it. I don't have kids and I make my schedule. So like, not everyone has that luxury. I work with first responders, for God's sake. Like, I get it. I know a lot of people have chosen this life and they don't have as much control as I do. This is the life I chose, and this is the control I have, and I'm doing with it what I'm choosing to do. So that's my soapbox.
I love that.
But it's amazing. I mean, it's truly been life-changing for me, and probably life-saving in terms of like how many good years of athletics I will be able to get out of it, and then what my longevity will be like when I'm done competing in sport. What's the quality of my life going to be like? How many years am I adding to my life because I'm choosing to make recovery a priority now instead of waiting till I have a health issue or have something else going on down the road. So I when I speak to the first responders and about the same thing when I do my speaking engagements, I'm like, recover by choice or recover by force, up to you. You can make it a priority each day and, get enough sleep, prioritize your recovery of not just your sleep, but your whole system, managing stress, et cetera. Or you can just ignore it, go for however long your body's going to be like, F you, I'm now going to force you to recover and you're going to get sick or injured. Which one do you want?
Yep, that's a pretty consistent cycle. Even for myself, that's very relatable, where it's like you can, it's kind of like choosing the suffering of the discipline it takes to take the necessary steps you need to take care of yourself now.
Yep. Or
inevitably, you're going to hit a wall and you're going to pay the price. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul. You're going to pay the price one way or another.
What is that saying? You're going to pay for, if you don't invest in your wellness, you will have to invest in illness. Yeah. Because it's coming. So I look at it as, some people are like, I can't sleep 8 hours. I don't have the time. Like, I'm making the time to sleep 8 hours. And that 1 hour or 2 hours and I'm not like doing other things, someone else, like you said, you're going to pay it back somewhere else. You're going to get injured and you're not going to be able to train as hard. You're going to get sick and you have to take days off. Choose, you got to make the choice. So that's how I look at it.
Tell me, I'm eager to get to your wind down process. Yes.
Okay. So if I travel, it doesn't always happen. But when I'm in my controlled environment, I'm at home, I got my routine and schedule, then usually about an hour before I go to bed. So I usually go to bed around 10. So like around 9. Actually, let's rewind from there. Once the sun goes down, whatever time, depending on the time of year, that changes. But when the sun goes down, I put on my blue light blocking glasses. So it filters out all the blue light. And
do you have a brand you like real quick?
Yeah, shout out to Dream Recovery.
Okay.
My guy, Todd Anderson. He's actually someone who I've learned a lot about, from whom I've learned a lot about sleep and recovery. He's kind of like my sleep guru.
Okay.
And I met him through Equinox. We worked together at Equinox years ago, and then we both became entrepreneurs around the same time. But he started a company that it started with mouth tape, and now they have the sleep masks, pillowcases, the blue light blocking glasses, and now they just came out they're coming out on May 1st with the nasal strips.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
So they're basically called sleep performance products.
Nice.
Which I love. I'm all about it, as you can see. So blue light blocking glasses go on once the sun is down, and so they're kind of like the orangey red lenses. And then at the same time, I start to dim the lights in the house because as humans, evolutionarily, we were meant to be awake when the sun was out and asleep when it wasn't. But now we have this artificial daytime 24/7 if we want it, and that's how a lot of people live, is just having bright lights on until the second you go to bed. And so
That's how I live.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on my fucking phone until the second. And it's like, I know I have that voice in the back of my head. Like, it's like, I know. I'm like, God, I should really put this phone down. You know? Okay, keep going.
Yeah, no, it's you're not alone, trust me. So I have in the kitchen, the kind of the living area, I have the bright lights, and then there's another set of lights we have amber bulbs in. So, and those are on a dimmer. So I turn off the bright lights, and then I turn on the amber lights. And then as it gets later and later, I just dim the lights more and more. It's kind of vibey. But there's a reason for that, because melatonin, which is a signaling hormone for sleep to tell the brain we need to shut down, that is only released in response to darkness. So if you're waiting until the second you're literally turning the lights off to go to sleep, that's when you shut all the lights off. That's when the process begins for melatonin release. But we can start that process earlier by reducing the exposure to bright lights. And that doesn't just mean screens, also overhead lights. So I start to just dim the lights earlier so I can prepare my brain and body for that transition to sleep to happen more quickly. Because I used to be somebody who would get in bed and lie awake for 45 minutes, not tired. And then I learned all this. And I was like, oh, I can just take those 45 minutes of like lying awake outside of the bed in the bedroom, start that wind down process earlier. So when I get into bed, it's more of like I'm ready to go to sleep now, because it's a transition versus like an on-off switch. So that's kind of how I look at the last hour of the day. So I start to dim the lights, blue light blocking glasses go on. I try to, if possible, it can't always happen, but if possible, I try to not do any more work and social media for that last hour of the day. And then I have a sauna in my garage. So I'll do sauna most nights, probably 5-6 nights a week. I'm in the sauna for about 20 minutes. And then after the sauna, like no more phone at all. I put my phone on airplane mode, sleep mode, and then I rinse off, get in bed. Sometimes I read, sometimes I'm super tired, and I just go right to sleep.
Wow.
And I fall asleep in 5 to 10 minutes now instead of 45, because I've taken that and just moved it out of the bedroom so that when I got into bed, I'm ready to go to sleep.
The heat doesn't. I'm impressed that the heat doesn't have a negative impact on your ability to fall right asleep. Do you find it's the opposite?
It's the opposite.
Get the fuck out of here.
Here's why. There's a reason for it.
Okay.
This is where I get super nerdy and sciencey, because I love this stuff. It's made such a profound impact on my life that I'm like so passionate about sharing this with people, because it doesn't take a lot. It's simple, not easy, right?
Right.
So the heat, our body temperature, our core body temperature has to drop 1 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit in order to fall asleep and stay asleep soundly. That process can be expedited and facilitated by heat exposure prior to bedtime, because when you increase your body temperature by way of sauna, hot bath, hot shower, then what's the body's natural response after that? Drop it, right? So we can make that process happen quickly by jacking up the body temperature through the heat exposure, getting out, and then within 10, 20, 25 minutes, body temperature drops below baseline where it was before you went in the sauna, and now you're cool. So it's the body doing the opposite. Then we fall asleep faster too.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
How did you learn about this and that's why you started implementing that? You did. Do you remember where you learned that from?
A lot of this I've learned from my friend Todd, who I just mentioned,
Sure.
and Huberman Lab podcast.
Ah, okay. Very cool.
Shout out to Huberman.
Shout out Huberman.
Out.
Yeah, hell yeah.
People have their feelings about him. I have learned a ton and implemented a lot of what I've learned from him, from his podcast. I know, people have countered some of the claims he's made, and I think there's some of it's just the science is new, like with cold exposure and that type of thing.
For sure.
The sauna research goes back a long time. That's proven. And so I think, the changes that I have made, if it didn't work for me, I wouldn't continue to do it.
100%.
All these things have worked tremendously. Like when I say I used to struggle with sleep, I really used to struggle with sleep and stress, anxiety, all those things that would come to bed with me. And I think another one this one I learned from Todd is when we do things in the bed or in the bedroom that are counterproductive to sleep, like being on social media, like having an argument with a spouse, like anything else that, anything that's not helping us wind down, our brain subconsciously creates associations. We're not aware it's happening. But you have an argument with your spouse or you're doing something stressful in bed, your brain associates the bed with stress. And so the next time you get into bed or whenever you get into bed, you know what you want to do in that space, and that's fall asleep. But if your brain has this association with things that are stressful and that location, you're not going to be able to fall asleep very easily because it's expecting this stress, this anxiety.
So you can have an undercurrent of
100%.
anxiety and sort of a negative attachment association with that space. So you want to keep it sacred, is what you're saying.
Sleep and sex.
That's it.
And maybe reading. And if you are reading, try not to read something that's going to keep your heart rate and blood pressure elevated.
So
don't read a murder mystery.
Yeah, I was about to say, no horror then. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So, I mean, truly, like those are the things that should happen definitely in the bed, and ideally too, just the bedroom. If you can take everything else and move it out, like I don't even take my phone in the bedroom hardly ever anymore. I just keep that space sacred for those two things.
So you mentioned your teammates. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you've kind of arrived at this place where it's like those little aches and pains and, colds 2 to 3 times a year, they've sort of dissolved, but you can see it in teammates and people around you who are not getting enough sleep, how it's impacting them. Potentially that's what it is, right? But can you talk about what the sport is exactly? Because frankly, I was looking at your social media, I'm like, what's happening here?
It's a great question.
So for those, first, what is it? And then tell us about it.
Yeah, that's usually what is happening here. When you see these videos, what is
I was like, this shit looks difficult. What are we being scored? Like, what is the Yeah,
it's good, all fair question. So the sport is called United Grid. The league is called United Grid League. It's the sport of grid.
Okay.
And it has been around. It was around 10 years ago, I think, and it was called the National Pro Grid League, NPGL. And it was all over the country. And then it kind of went away. There was leadership changes. It kind of died off for a little bit and came back, I think it was in 2017, as the Florida Grid League. And it was just happening in Florida. Then
Shout out Florida.
And then last season, it became the United Grid League. So it expanded outside of Florida. Now it's United Grid League. So now, as of this season, which starts in a month, we have a team in Houston. There's a team in Las Vegas and a team in Atlanta. And then the rest of the teams are in Florida. There's 8 teams total. It's pretty small still, but it is, when you look at it, you probably like, that looks like CrossFit, because a lot of the stuff that you see on the grid, you also see in CrossFit.
Well, I saw you absolutely hammering out some walking handstands. I was like, this looks like she's just walking on her feet. This is not difficult for her. It was very impressive.
That goes back to my childhood as a gymnast. So I always say, like, I think I'll be able to walk on my hands as long as I can walk on my feet. I'm pretty sure that's not going to go away because I started at such a young age. But anyway, so grid is a lot of elements of CrossFit. You'll see a lot of the same movements that you see in CrossFit on the grid, but also there's gymnastics, there's powerlifting, there's strongman, there's weightlifting, and it's a little bit of everything.
Sounds amazing.
It's pretty cool. The main difference, or one of the main differences between CrossFit and grid, is that to be good at CrossFit, you have to be good at all of the things. You have to be able to do all of those different skills. In grid, you specialize. So it's like a team sport in that way, where people are recruited for specific positions. So there's strength specialists, there's body weight specialists, and then there's utility players, which kind of do a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And then you don't have to be able to, there's no player that can do everything, because there's everything. We have a girl on our team who's like 4'10", and then there's a guy in the league who's 6'5", and everything, and strongman types who are super big and bulky, and then really light body weight specialists who can flip and do all the things. So a team together, the team can do everything that is required in the league, but no individual is doing everything. So,
are you familiar with the show Invincible?
No.
Okay, it's an animated series, but it's about superheroes. That's what I'm getting. I'm getting like a sort of like a story. Yes, some superhero vibes. Like, this person can stretch. This person can, like, you know what I mean?
That's fair.
How big are the teams?
There are 18. To play a match, you need a minimum of 5 women, 5 men. So men and women play together. That's another unique thing about.
Very cool.
Unlike other team sports where you have men's sports, you have women's sports. This is men and women play together.
And it's mandatory.
Super cool. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I've never seen or done anything like it. Actually, this is my first time ever playing a team sport, so that's fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing there's no balls involved, right? No catching, no throwing.
The only ball is for wall balls.
Let's go.
So I can handle that sometimes. One time, though, like I just don't. I threw it and went over.
Too strong.
Over the thing.
Too strong. Have you ever seen Napoleon Dynamite?
A long time ago.
Okay. All right. Well, it's just, Uncle Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slinging football clear over the mountains. That's the vibe I'm getting right now. Yeah.
I'm better off without him.
So what is your specialty?
So I was recruited as a strength specialist when the team captain for the team I play on, which is...
That tracks.
Yeah. Tampa Bay Brigade is my team. They were looking for a female strength specialist, and they she found me on Instagram, slid into my DMs, much like you did.
Hell yeah.
And I, fast forward, here I am, my second season. So I was recruited for like mostly the barbell stuff, but because of my background in gymnastics and I can still do all the handstands, I can do the flips and all that stuff. So I do kind of a little bit of different stuff. I do some gymnastics and mostly weightlifting.
Nice.
Heavy things.
And so what year is this for you then?
This will be my second season.
Nice. Okay, so what does a season entail? Do you play every team? Is there a tournament at the end? What is the...
It's like other team sports in that teams play each other and then there's a playoffs. It's a short season, so we have 4 regular season matches and then
you're
playoffs.
seeded based off that for playoffs?
Yep.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
It is. And we're trying to grow. I mean, it's a growing sport. I think the race, so each match is made up of 11 races. Each race is anywhere from 20 seconds to 4 minutes.
Okay, give me some of the race examples because like I want like is it like when I think of a race, like I think of like in 11 different events, I think of like strongman, like with the Atlas stone, like trying to finish on, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's in every match, there's 2 races where it's one individual from each team going head to head. Every other race is usually 4 or 5 individuals. So there's a lot of strategy. Like you'll have in that race, you'll have 3 to 5 elements. So for example, an element might be 30. So a male and a female would share a barbell. So it's like 155-pound barbell, women's bar. And if a female does the element, it's a front squat. If the male does the element, it's an overhead squat. So that's how they kind of even the playing field. So either a male or a female can do that element, but the movement would be different. If the weight's the same, the movement's different. Or sometimes it would be a different weight. So there's a lot of different stuff going on. It's fast. It's super fast, but they designed it to satisfy the modern attention span, which is short.
Yeah.
So it's short races, really catchy stuff going on. Like it almost looks like the circus meets, I don't know, strongman. And so it's really catchy and cool to watch, but it happens very quickly. And ultimately the goal is to cross the finish line first. So it's a race.
Yeah.
And then you score points. So if you finish, whoever of the 2 teams, whoever wins the race gets 2 points. The team that didn't win, if you finish within the time cap, you get 1 point. And then there's things like a bonus flag. So each team gets a bonus flag for each match. So the team can throw a flag and that race becomes worth an extra point. So if you think your team's going to beat the other team, then you throw the flag. So now it's worth 3 points. And if you lose it, then the other team gets 3 points.
Oh,
there's a lot
I see.
of strategy.
Yeah. Very
there's
cool.
There's like subbing rules. So you can only have this many players on the roster and you can sub people in and out. It's a whole thing. There's a lot of rules.
So something that's kind of dawning on me now as you're talking about this is like you're absolutely crushing it, competing at the national level and weightlifting. You are embarking on a brand new sport simultaneously. And throughout the entirety of this process, you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Damn, dude. So tell me,
don't ask me what I do for fun. I have no answer.
I feel like that you're currently doing it is what it sounds like.
People are like, what are your hobbies? Like,
You're looking at it.
who has time for that? But I love everything I get to do. So
I
regret nothing.
Same people. I will get that. It's like, what do you do for fun? I'm like, I am doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it, dude.
I love it all.
So I'm very blessed in that regard. Very fortunate.
100%.
From an entrepreneurial standpoint, you talked about leaving Equinox and what's it like leaving Equinox and it's like, okay, I'm out on my own. What does that look like? And then how have things transformed over the years?
That was a tough transition. But it opened my eyes to a lot of things. The first thing I realized was, and it was the same side, the same coin, but both sides of the coin. So the first thing I realized was how much Equinox provided for me. The 4 walls of the gym, the equipment, the clientele, the training, the technological infrastructure, and the list goes on. And then when I don't have that, I'm like, I don't have that. I have to figure all that out on my own. So it was eye-opening from that perspective. And then on the other perspective is like, oh, I have a blank slate to create it how I want in a way that aligns with me. Because Equinox is not a perfect alignment for me, but it was a great place for me to work and get that start and get that foundation built. So I was able to take the things that I liked and be like, okay, I'm going to move forward with these and I'm going to leave the things that I don't. And that went from, just everything from the technology to the branding to the messaging of the brand, like what do we stand for, what are our values. And so it was a cool kind of dichotomy of like, they provided me so much, but at the same time, like now I can represent myself the way I want to represent myself. I don't represent Equinox anymore. I represent me. And it's exciting. It's scary. It's all the things. I realized how much goes into starting a business. And for the first couple of years, I was just a solopreneur, right? Like I have my own company, my own brand, but it's just me doing everything. And it's really not until like kind of right now that I'm starting to break away from that and really be a business owner and not self-employed, because there's a difference, and I'm learning that.
Yeah.
So
do you have, what has been, first of all, was there like a catalyst or a thing that you arrived at? You're like, I've got to leave this setting. I have to pursue this. Or were you just looking for something different?
No, I got furloughed during COVID.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have any income.
Yeah.
The gym closed down. I think for one pay period, they paid us 100% because we didn't know how long this was going to go on. So we continued to get paid. Then it was like, we're cutting your pay to 75% for another couple pay periods. And it was like, we're cutting your pay to 50%. And then this kept going on and on and on. And we're like, we can't, and I get it. Like the company, how is the company going to reopen its doors if they've paid everyone for not working,
right?
Not bringing anything in? So I totally understood, but at a certain point we got furloughed. I think it was like July. They were like, we have to put everyone on furlough. When the club reopens, you will get your job back. It will be available for you if you want it. Right. But we also understand if you decide to go pursue other things. And so I think that lasted for me, like it was like 3 weeks. By August 14th, I remember August 14th, 2020, was my last day. And I'm just not the type of person to sit around and wait for things to happen. I didn't want to wait for them to tell me what my future could look like. I was like, I'm not about that life. I'm going to go make something happen for myself. So
what did that look like in the beginning for you?
In terms of?
Well, you go out on your own and it's like, okay, do you have a game plan? And then like, are you just training people? Like what's that kind of look like? And then did you have an end goal kind of like where you're at today? Or, sometimes it's like, for me, it's like, I don't even necessarily, there have been times where it's like, I don't necessarily have, like I have an idea of the way I want things to look, but it's not concrete. I just know that I'm working towards that thing.
Yeah, totally fair. So at the time I was figuring out how was I going to continue to do what I knew how to do. Up to that point, I trained clients and I had trained other trainers to train clients, or led other trainers to becoming better trainers. Mm-hmm. And so I knew in the short term that figuring out how I could just move all that online was going to be the fastest way to make income because I had none. So I test drove a couple of different apps, white labeled a bunch of different Train Heroic and Trainerize and all the different ones that are out there. So I did a 2-week trial to figure out which one was going to be the most user-friendly. And then came up with a brand name, came up with, generally logo and mission statement and all the things. And then I went live. And so for the first year or so, it was basically just me training clients one-on-one. And then I quickly realized that that's not scalable if I'm the only one training and I only train one-on-one. It's an exchange of time for money. That is not infinitely scalable. So then shortly after that, I started writing programs like people could buy and follow on their own. And I had a few programs. I was really into kettlebell training and programming. I still am. As a athlete, I'm a weightlifter, but as a coach, I'm way, way more comfortable and successful as a kettlebell coach.
You've got some kettlebell accolades, by the way, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What is the name of the
Iron Maiden?
Iron Maiden. And what does that entail?
That is a title, I guess, if you will, through Strong First. Strong First is the organization with whom I have my kettlebell certification, level 1 and 2. And the Iron Maiden title is earned by women who do a military press, a weighted pull-up, and a pistol squat with a 24-kilogram kettlebell, so 53 pounds. And then for men, it's the same 3 movements, but with a 48-kilogram, 106-pound kettlebell. That's called the Beast Tamer. So I got that in 2016.
Hell yeah.
So a lot more women have gotten it since then, but I was the 16th woman in the world to get it.
That's so awesome.
So, kettlebells are my jam. I love them from a coaching standpoint, and that'll always be kind of my bread and butter as a coach. But anyway, so I wrote some kettlebell programs and started to sell those online as part of my platform. Then a little after that, I don't remember the exact timelines here, but I started a membership. And so I wrote a lot of different programs and different daily workouts and things like that, kind of catering to what people were looking for at the time. Because, if we were thinking about 2020, 2021, nobody was going to the gym. Everyone was training at home. Kettlebells exploded in popularity, which is great because I was already training with them since I got my first kettlebell certification in 2014. So I had lots of years of kettlebell training under my belt. So I made a lot of videos, did a lot of programming, for kettlebells and built this membership where that was now scalable. You know, selling programs and doing the membership, put a lot of work in up front for those first couple of years to build it. And then now it's infinitely scalable. So that's kind of where we went for the first couple of years of that. And then in 2022 or 3, I started to build a team of coaches because I wanted to start getting into other things and realized that if I was glued to doing one-on-one programming and coaching all the time, and we weren't doing Zoom sessions, it wasn't like, I'm going to watch you work out on Zoom for 60 minutes.
Right.
It's kind of that middle ground of, I'm going to write you a custom program. We're going to do check-in calls. You can send me videos. I'll give you feedback on them. So we don't have to, in time zone, you know, we could be anywhere in the world, in the country, and we could still work together. So that was kind of our happy medium from a one-on-one standpoint. But I didn't want to be the only one doing that. So I slowly grew a team. We have 3 coaches now who do one-on-one, and I hardly do. I think I have 2 clients right now. So I've way scaled back my one-on-one. They have full books of clients. And when people reach out to us or to me for coaching, I now funnel them to them, which is a challenge. But because people, when they reach out to me, they want to work with me. And I'm like, I'm not working with one-on-one anymore. But I do have a team of 3 that I've vetted. They have different specialties. And I would trust them to help anybody get results. So I can send people to them while I still continue to scale the membership, grow the brand, and go out and do the speaking and all the other things that I'm doing now. So that's been the journey.
Running parallel to that is, because it's one thing, it's like doing the work, right? Writing the programs, meeting with people and stuff like that. But then like growing visibility, building the brand, and marketing that. Oh, yeah. Oh man. That's a whole other side of it.
Yeah.
And social media being, inseparable from all 3 of those things, at least in our space.
Sure.
What's your experience been navigating social media, using it as a medium in order to do those, essential parts to running a business and marketing and advertising and building the brand?
Yeah, it's been interesting because I have my own following, my personal brand, and it wasn't really until recently that I even considered myself to be like a quote personal brand, but like I have my own brand independent of the company that I've built. So I kind of have both. So I've tried to figure out, and I'm still work in progress, figuring out how to make them feed off of each other. But I think that's something I need to continue to refine of like how to send people they come to me and I can send them to other coaches or I can send them to the members. So I think leveraging those strategies of when people want to work with me or they want how do you get your legs like that? How do you get this strong? Whatever the questions are, like figuring out, making sure that the product suite that I offer matches what people are looking for. And then allowing the 2 to kind of feed off of each other. So it's still something I'm working on, but now we actually just rebranded our company. So Semper Stronger was the company that I started in 2020. We are now MCHN Strength as of a month ago. And
it's a badass name.
Thanks. So we partnered with, we've merged with my friend Nick Lavery. He's a Green Beret, still active duty. He's an above the knee amputee. He's the first special operator to return to combat as an above the knee amputee.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he
returned to combat?
Returned to combat.
You said active duty. I did not assume combat.
Yeah, he returned to combat.
What a fucking badass that guy is.
His story is unbelievable. Highly recommend people checking him out on Jocko Podcast.
Say his name again,
Nick
please.
Lavery.
Okay.
Put in the show notes. But yeah, so he's been on Jocko Podcast, Sean Ryan, all the big platforms. But he should have died like 9 times. Yeah. And the fact that he's still here is remarkable. And he took that opportunity as like second lease on life, if you will, to start a business, make impact. And he's been a mentor of mine. He's my speaking mentor. He's a big reason why I am where I am now in terms of getting in front of audiences, working with tactical athletes and things. So he's helped me a lot. And we just through our business conversations and our development over the last 2 years of knowing, or 2 or 3 years of knowing and working together, it became clear that we kind of had a similar trajectory for our respective businesses and that eventually we were probably going to become competitors. So we already did a lot of work together on the speaking side and the business side. And so we just decided to join forces. So we joined forces, we rebranded, and now we are going to go further together.
Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was a big step.
Yeah.
Starting a business is hard. Rebranding a business, probably equally as hard.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. You're starting over.
Yeah. Yeah. But ultimately it's for the better. I think we're going to do bigger and better things now because, like I said, I was mostly operating as a solopreneur with my 3 coaches, but I was still wearing and still am wearing most of the hats.
Right.
one-on-one coaching, marketing, technology. My husband helps me a lot on the back end, but membership management, customer service, like we still do all of that stuff. And so because my husband's still active duty also, his time's limited. I'm now competing in athletics. My time is limited. So we're spread so thin. So merging with Nick and his company and basically unlocking access to his already established team of people who do marketing, who do media, who do you name it. So now it's just like everything we were missing to grow to that next level, we have.
God, it's so awesome.
It worked out really well.
Congratulations.
Very grateful. Thank you.
In working in the tactical space, and something I've seen too is that word kind of gets thrown around a little bit. Like you'll see someone doing like a movement and they're like, try this tactical goblet squat. It's like, it's just a goblet squat. That's all it is. It's a goblet squat.
Yeah.
So, my question is, what is it like working in the tactical space for those who are unaware?
Yeah. So tactical, for what we're really talking about when we say tactical.
Yeah. What is? Give us a definition for tactical.
Basically, public servants. People wear the uniform. So military and law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, public safety, that type of thing. So people who serve our country and serve our communities to keep us safe at home and abroad is probably the simplest way to put it. So that's who I focus on now. That's who when I go do my speaking engagements, that's why I'm here in Austin. That's what I focus on. And then our membership is not exclusive to that, but we do have probably at least 50% of our members are wearing some kind of uniform and serving in some way. So we still have programming that's accessible for Gen Pop, but we also are starting to build more of a repertoire of programs for the tactical population.
When it comes to working with the tactical population, what are some challenges that are unique to that population?
Well, there's many. And this is specifically so I got certified in tactical strength conditioning through NSCA. And that's basically what it's the strength conditioning certification, but specific to that population. Mm-hmm. There are specific challenges in terms of the gear that they wear, right? It's very heavy. It's very awkward. It puts their bodies in weird positions for very long periods of time. So for law enforcement, they got the duty belt. For SWAT operators, they have to wear that rifle across their body for hours on end. They're sitting a lot. They have the police cars with the console in the middle, so they're turned, like all that day, hours on end, day after day, week after week, year after year, like that does a number on the body. So the gear that they wear for military, it's 100+ pound packs, and they're going for rucks for miles and miles, uphill, downhill, you name it. Being able to get over things, get under things, move different directions with all that gear on. And then for firefighters, obviously their gear's upwards of over 100 pounds plus. Then you add the hose, then you add the ladders, then you add all the things. So the gear that they wear, the environment and climates that they have to operate in. So for wildland firefighters, being out, in the blazing hot sun with the fires, and those challenges, plus for military when they're overseas in the desert, in cold environments. So what changes do we have to make to consider the environmental and climate related factors? The schedule, right? It's nights, it's 24 hours, it's 48 hours, it's always changing. So that makes, for someone who like me who's obsessed with sleep, that's a huge challenge and something that I have so much gratitude for people who are willing to sacrifice their sleep and their sleep schedule, regularity, consistency on our behalf, right? So those challenges from a scheduling standpoint, and then just the overall wear and tear, the stress. Stress is very catabolic.
Yeah.
The nervous system, that everything suffers, the family relationships, like there's just so many factors that go into it. So being cognizant of all those factors that are at play, because we call them tactical athletes, but unlike sport athletes who have all these things provided to them, right? Everything's controlled, their schedule's controlled, they have the training facilities that are climate controlled, they've got predictability, they know who their enemy, quote unquote enemy is, their opponent, right? You can study their tapes, you can study all their plays, but the cops go out on the street, they have no idea what they're facing. Mm-hmm. So all the unpredictable aspects of that, many of them are lacking, the units departments, the DOD, they don't provide nearly enough resources and services for dietitians, physical therapists. My husband's a Marine, so I can only speak to the Marine Corps from personal experience, but in the entire Marine Corps, there's 2 dietitians, one on each coast for the entire Marine Corps. And, body composition is a huge challenge for all people, in the entire country, but especially for our tactical population who have to be able to move their body and be healthy and serve and do all the things that they do. They need to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
They need to have enough muscle mass. They need to have appropriate body composition for the job that they're doing, and many of them do not have that.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk all day about why that is, but the bottom line is like they need the resources, and that's where I feel called to take the knowledge and experiences I've gained through my certification, through my experience, through being a military spouse, through the things I've done, and now being unable to serve in the military myself due to my health condition, take that and be able to give back to that population who gives us so much.
Well, you took it. What I was going to say is you beat me to it. As I reflect over our conversation and just your experience, down to your personality type, you're so uniquely qualified to have a massive impact on this demographic of people. It's incredible.
Thank you.
So congratulations. I mean, that must feel really special to know. And it feels like, just off what you just said there, it seems like you have some awareness around that too. Because I can see it. It's very clear to me. So congratulations. It sounds like you've found your calling and a way to, have some serious purpose and impact.
Thank you.
How special is that?
That's what it's all about. I mean, that's what gets me out of bed every morning.
Zach, what's the best training app on the planet?
It has to be Train Heroic. Gone are the days of sending the old crusty PDF. Now we have a sleek new app.
It's easy to use. There's videos with descriptions. You get to track and log your weight, your reps. There's a community chat function. You can submit videos. You can get feedback.
How about the leaderboard, Tim?
I started using Train Heroic first as an athlete and someone who wanted to learn. Now I use it as a coach. Athletes and other coaches can go and be a part of my training community and get results.
Whether you're an athlete, coach, or just like to train, use the link in our description to find out how you can train on the best app in the world.
And join us on Train Heroic today.
The Coach 'em Up podcast is sponsored by Squat Wedgies. Tim, what are Squat Wedgies?
Squat Wedgies are an adjustable squat wedge, 7, 13, and 20 degrees.
It's big enough to elevate your whole foot and not just your heel.
Because it's rubber, it doesn't slide on surfaces.
It's 22 pounds, so it's durable and stable enough for even your biggest athletes.
There's a 90-day risk-free trial. The shipping is free, and
get 15% off Squat Wedgies with our discount code CoachEmUp15.
Coach 'em Up 15 for 15% off of the best squat wedge on the planet. You mentioned chronic illness that prevented you from going into the military. Mm-hmm. Can I ask what that is and what your experience has been?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a disease called ulcerative colitis. It is a type of inflammatory bowel disease. And it is, a lot of people haven't heard of it, but they've heard of Crohn's. And they're basically sister diseases, if you will. Symptomatically, they're pretty much identical. It's just Crohn's is small or large intestine. Colitis is only large intestine.
Okay.
So it's a chronic disease. There's no cure for it. There is basically symptom management and hopefully achieving remission, which I'm very fortunate to have been in remission for the better part of the last 5 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you, which coincides with figuring out my purpose and working for myself and having more control over my life and managing my stress effectively. I know there's a lot of people suffering that don't have that same experience. I've been able to get off all my prescription medications.
Wow, man.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's taught me a lot. Blessings and a curse. Blessing and a curse at the same time, but ultimately it did prevent me from joining the military. I was trying to do that in college. I was in the ROTC program, and around the same time I met my now husband, and I came to find out I was diagnosed right at the beginning of my college years, as a freshman, and then in my sophomore year I joined ROTC, and then quickly, during the med evaluation, they were like, "Oh wait, you can't actually do that. You have this disease, and we can't have you in this program." So
oh my God, were you fucking devastated?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that that's what I was going to do with my life, and wanted to become an officer in the military. I met my husband. He was also going through he was enlisted prior, and he was going to become an officer. That's why he was in school. You have to have a college degree to become an officer in the military. So he was going through. He had just come back from his Afghanistan deployment. Was going through college. We met there. And then I was actually enrolled in the Air Force ROTC, and he was like, "What are you doing going to the Air Force? Get out of here. You're joining the Marine Corps." I was like, "Okay, joining the Marine Corps." So I was going to switch to Naval ROTC, and then they were like, "Oh, actually, you can't join the military at all. So we need to unfortunately dismiss you from the program." And I was like, "Cool, and let's figure out what I'm going to do with my life now."
Right.
So then that's how I found fitness, and also kind of parallel journey of like figuring out my own health and realizing that if I'm going to have some semblance of a normal life down the road, like I have to get this under control. Like I couldn't go far from a bathroom. I needed to know where the bathrooms are anytime I entered a building. Like that type of.
It was that
intense. Bad. Yeah.
Debilitating.
Like college was really, really tough for me.
Fuck.
I was sick the entire time. Every midterm, every finals, every time I had a big paper, I was flaring and tons of medication. And then it was really not until after that I started to get it under control, have periods of remission in between periods of symptoms, and then really got stable remission in 2020.
God, congratulations. You're able to navigate that and get to where you are today. I would imagine going through that process. I've had some autoimmune issues and chronic health stuff throughout my 20s, some of my early 30s. The difficult part has been or was feeling better and feeling like everything's fine, and then things flaring up and going through the process of like, what did I change? What was different? You know what I mean? Trying to find the reason why.
And you want to also have something to be like, it's that.
Yes.
Because then you know to just not do that.
Right.
But it's not that simple.
It's not. It's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sympathize for you to the extent that it sounds like you went through. It's much more extreme. But man, not that feeling of, frankly, like being out of control.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's a good way to put it.
And that's what it's the helplessness.
That's what controls
It's helplessness.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. Truly being like, unless, and it's hard for people to grasp, unless a life circumstance, a physical illness, disease, unless you have been completely defeated by something, it's hard to understand what it's like to hit that sort of mental, emotional bottom that you go through and through that process. But hats off to you for being able to walk through it. And overcoming that or learning to manage it effectively might be a better way of saying it. What were the biggest rocks for you? You alluded to some of them.
Learning how to effectively manage my stress and anxiety, I think, was the biggest one for me. And that came in parallel to finding purpose. I loved my job at Equinox, but it wasn't really until I left that and was working for myself on my own terms, with my own kind of path that I was creating for myself. That's when my health started to improve dramatically. I was still somewhat okay, but I would have periods of flaring up at least once a year. Well, the whole time I was working for Equinox, which is better than all year round when I was in school. But now since 2020, I've had one flare up.
Wow.
In 5 years. So, and I know exactly why it happened. I stupidly took ibuprofen, which you're not supposed to do.
Oh.
So, NSAIDs are not good for the gut lining, for anyone who was wondering.
In case you were unsure, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what sent me back into flare. But yeah, I was learning how to control my stress and anxiety, channel it into a better place, and I guess kind of parallel to that too, has been voluntarily putting myself in controlled, stressful situations. So getting into the cold plunge, which is an acute stressor, right? But learning how to breathe through that. You put yourself into controlled, voluntarily stressful situations. You start to learn that, yes, I'm safe. Yes, I can get myself under control. And that translates into other arenas. So then also competing in weightlifting, learning how to control my nerves on the platform. That's a whole other animal. Then getting into public speaking, which I really did just for like a personal challenge because I was terrified of it. It's like, okay, if I'm terrified, that means I have to do it. So I'm going to do it. So I joined a group called Toastmasters, which is an international organization to help people develop as leaders, speakers, and communicators. And so I joined that. So first time I went up to the front of the room of 20 people, I froze. I had no words come out of my mouth. And then fast forward 6-7 months, I was speaking to 600 people.
Wow. Yeah, you're literally here. You're going to speak to fucking 800 people.
They're broken up into different sessions. I'm not speaking to all.
Not at once, but it's still.
But yeah, I have spoken to 600 people. And,
wow.
If you had told me 5 years ago I was going to do that, I would have thought you were crazy. Yeah. But I learned the value of choosing stressors, to voluntarily put myself through, prove to myself I can do it, and then that kind of has helped me learn to control my health that way, the overall state of my nervous system, but then also to seek that discomfort and growth for my own personal development and professional development. So it's kind of all fit together. And then nutrition, of course, and sleep play a huge role in overall state of my body as well, both in terms of my disease management and also just my ability to perform as an athlete and do all the things that I do. So my family will tell you I'm zero fun because I live the way that I do, but it's what I like. It works for me. It's allowed me to get to where I am. So yeah, I'm not going to like get super wasted on the weekends, and I'm not going to stay up late because I have my bedtime, but that's what I'm choosing for myself, and it's allowed me to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's also relatable. Let's get into some segments. Are you ready for this? Segments. That's right. I didn't tell you about this at the beginning, did I?
No.
It's okay. They're not crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. You're going to nail it. Okay. This first segment is brought to you by Squat Wedgies. Use code CoachEmUp15 for 15% off for the best squat wedges on the planet. Let's go back to that time where you're on the precipice of making the leap from being training in person, managing trainers, hiring trainers, you're at Equinox, and boom, your feet hit the floor and you're on your own now. Fast forward to where you are today. What are 3 things, and these are attitudes, activities, actions that someone can take to help get them from I just left my job to now where you are today? You've got a brand, you've got a business, you're being invited to speaking engagements. What are 3 things that they can do?
Such good questions. Only 3. Limiting it.
Only 3. I know.
I think the lesson that I needed to hear and still need to hear over and over again is not being afraid to fail. Failure there's a lot of ways. It's a good thing in this case. Like when you figure out how to not do things, you get one step closer to figuring out how to do something. Whether that's figuring out who your client avatar is, whether that's figuring out your logo, your brand, your message, whatever it is, like you're going to get it wrong, and that's okay, because every time you do, it's just another way to not do it. It's like the whole Thomas Edison thing. Like, how many times did he not create electricity until he finally did, right? You just get rid of that one. Okay, that didn't work. Let's move forward. So that's definitely one, is to not stop yourself from doing something just because of the fear of failure, which again is something I need to be reminded of fairly often. 2 is collaborate. Even if you're a solopreneur, leverage other people. You don't know everything. Nobody does. Somebody in your network either knows it or knows somebody who does. So leverage those people, because you're going to go a lot further when you have a group of people helping you get there. Nobody achieved anything great by themselves.
Amen to that. It's the truth. There's no one's self-made. It's bullshit.
Yep, agreed. I had someone in my DMs a couple weeks ago, like, saying, I don't know, I posted something about being part of a team, being grateful to be on the team that I am, and he was like, F the team, I'm self-made. I was like, I don't know why you felt the need to say that.
Right,
We're going to go ahead and delete that.
I don't need a team. Yeah, sure, buddy.
It was very strange. Anyways, that just reminded me of that. And then the third, just going from the mistakes I made early on, is figure out who you want to help. Who is your target audience? Who is your client avatar, your niche, whatever you want to call it? Because if you're for everybody, then you're for nobody. And there's room for everybody in this industry to be successful, but figure out who you are talking to, because it's easier to get your message across when you know who you're trying to reach. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really know that. And honestly, I didn't really know that until in the last 2 years. I was an entrepreneur for 3 years before, and I was, I just needed a place to train my clients and do what I knew how to do. But I would train anybody. And I can train anybody, but it wasn't really until the last 2 years I figured out who I really want, like who do I feel called to help, and that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and that's what fires me up every single day. So if you can figure out who that person is, who really gets you excited about what it is that you're doing, go find those people and go help them.
God, those are awesome. All right, this next segment is called Rant and Rave. This segment is brought to you by Train Heroic. I use Train Heroic. Zach uses Train Heroic. You could use it too. Go to the link in our show notes. Click it. Okay. Rant and rave. So a rant, and this is something that you're seeing in health, wellness, the fitness space, that you're seeing and you're like, I don't love that. I'd like to see less of that. And then after you rant about that, we're going to bring it full circle, and then we're going to talk about something that you're seeing where it's the opposite. You're like, hey, I like this, and I would love to see more of this.
I love this question. So many things come to mind. How am I going to pick one? Let's see. Rant. It's kind of a general statement or a general thing that people do, but just selling anything as the the shortcut, like the hack. I don't even like the word hack because hack implies that it's shortcutting something else, a shortcut to something else. So I think getting rid of like skirting around the fact that to achieve anything is going to require anything other than an immense amount of hard work and consistency. If you're selling anything other than that, you're selling a bunch of BS because there is no shortcut.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are standing on that stool to sell a product, to sell whatever it is. There's people out there getting Brazilian butt lifts and saying that they achieved it in the gym. Like, no, you didn't. You achieve a big set of glutes or legs through a lot of freaking hard work for many years. And you telling people that you did that through that when you didn't is lying. And it's false advertising.
Yeah.
And it's giving people who are at the beginning of their fitness journey complete misguidance about what it really takes to be successful. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, false claims and literally saying one thing and actually it being the opposite. Yeah, fuck that. I'm with you on that.
Do you follow Goob?
I don't.
Oh, that's a great follow.
Okay.
Goob, it's Goob_U2, I think it is.
Okay.
And he has built his entire platform on calling out fake fitness influencers who edit their photos in Photoshop using like the waist slimmer.
Oh, maybe I have seen clips.
Yeah,
I've probably seen it on my For You page.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a few where it's like someone breaking down. It's like literally you can see like the plant and the background is like warped and distorted. Yeah. Okay, very cool.
So I appreciate all the work he's doing in that.
Yeah, he's out here doing the Lord's work.
He's doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
All right, and then rave. Something that you're seeing that you're like, love this, would love to see more of it.
I think just going back to what we talked about earlier is sleep being more at the forefront. I think a lot more people are talking about sleep and recovery than they ever were before. And recovery is kind of a catch-all for a lot of different things. That could be the sauna, that could be a mouth tape, that can be anything, but it's all good stuff. Like getting people to focus on recovering as hard as they're training. Because I think for a long time it was like train till the wheels fall off. And there are certainly still people that are preaching that. Yes, I'd love to train hard as much as anybody else. But if you don't have that other piece of the puzzle, you're going to hit a wall eventually.
Yeah.
So
the wheels will indeed fall off.
Yes.
Yes.
So recovery and sleep is my jam.
Love it. If you weren't a coach, what would you be and why?
Like dream job.
Yeah.
If I could.
Anything. Wave magic wand. Boom.
Professional food critic.
Whoa. Nice. Are you a big baking show person?
I don't own a TV, so I don't watch anything.
Okay. Nice. Good for you.
Haven't owned a TV in 7 years.
Wow.
But yeah, so but when I did own a TV, the only thing I really watched was the Food Network.
Nice.
I love food. I love food.
Incredible. That's awesome.
I would love to just taste food for a living or be like a Food Network judge.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah. Kelly and I eat out all the time, and I think that would be pretty high on both of our lists, actually.
Yeah. It would that or be in the military. Either one.
Okay. Nice.
Completely different. But
that's okay.
Yeah.
Listen, they're your dream jobs, not mine.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I know I can't be in the military, but putting all that aside, like if I could, I would love to serve.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Last segment. This segment is called Solicited Advice. This segment is brought to you by Aleco. I still can't believe that they sponsor this show because, my God, they're such a good company. Incredible. Literally everything that I own from them is better than anything I've ever owned from any other company who has made that same thing. It's unfucking believable.
That's a great ad right there.
Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah, that's right, Aleco. That's right. Stick with us, baby. All right. So solicited advice. The way this works is I'm going to give you a scenario, okay? And let's say the Whole Foods right across the street, okay? Listen, you drove 3.5 hours down here. Now you've been sitting with me for almost an hour and a half. You got to be hungry. You're going to walk across the street, the Whole Foods. You're going to grab yourself something healthy to eat. And as you're checking out, for whatever reason, you feel compelled, overwhelmed, convicted, called. You are going to tell the person checking you out a piece of unsolicited advice. What is that advice going to be? And it can be about anything, life, training, you name it.
Oh, man. This is like your way of asking if you had one piece of advice, what would it be? I like it. Very creative.
Thank you.
That's how everyone ends their podcast. But not in this way. This is different. My first instinct was to tell them to go get better sleep, but that's not very impactful. I mean, it is impactful, but that's not the unsolicited advice. They probably wouldn't listen anyway. Find your purpose.
Yeah.
We were all put on this earth for a reason. And the sooner you can figure out what it is that you are meant to do, the sooner you can get to work and do it.
Hell yeah.
And on that related note, like reading, learning, taking the master classes, listening to the podcast is all good. I've learned a ton through that, but there is no better teacher than just taking action. And so learn as much as you can, as much as you need to get started, but then just go do the thing, because that's how you're going to make the impact.
God, that's really good advice. This fucking cashier's life is about to get rocked, dude. Let's go.
I'm about to go tell.
Hell yeah,
hammer
drop the
that
hammer.
thing.
So it's just like waiting for the fucking day to end, and you're like, hey, I'm about to change your life. First of all, thank you for doing this show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God,
Awesome.
it's been a blast. I really appreciate it. I hope your speaking engagement goes incredibly well and you just knock it out of the park. I'm sure you will.
Appreciate it.
Where can people find you, connect with you, and grow alongside you?
Social media is Instagram is where I'm the most active in terms of social media. So my personal channel is at Rebecca.Rouse. My business is at MCHN Strength, MCHN Strength. And then website is machinestrength.com. And that's where you'll find all the things I offer in terms of strength conditioning coaching and programming and all that good stuff. And pretty soon we'll have even more up there as we continue to grow. So those are the best ways to reach me.
Incredible. Guys, give her a follow. Go check out her stuff. Everyone who's made it this far, thank you so much for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe, tell a friend. We love you, and we'll see you next time.